Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we continue with the Bhagavad Gita as it is. We just finished the chapter 8. Today we begin with chapter 9, most confidential knowledge. So as we were saying, Prabhupada had mentioned in the previous chapter that the middle six chapters are dealing with bhakti. So they are most important in Bhagavad Gita. The first six and the last six, they deal with karma and gyan and dhyan. But the middle six are dealing with bhakti. Now, between those 6, 7 to 12, 9th chapter is right in the middle. And it's called the most confidential knowledge. Krishna is speaking of the most confidential knowledge in this chapter. So let's begin. Text 1. Would somebody like to read?
Hare
I can
Krishna.
read.
Oh, so yeah.
Are you just? Yeah. No, please start. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most confidential knowledge. Text 1. Shri Bhagwan Vacha Indum Idam tu te guyatam Pravakshyami Anusuyave Jnanam Vijnanam Sahitam Yagyatva Moksha Asubhata. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Arjun, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence." Purport. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. The message of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if the topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of the particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the signs of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation, in his potent service, describes in this 9th chapter matters more confidential than any he has already disclosed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book. And in the second and the third chapter, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and the 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service. And because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the in the conditional state of material existence, he is to be considered liberated. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Now, this first verse has a specific significance. The word idam jnanam, this knowledge, refers to the pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to the spiritual, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand the science of Krishna. Simply to understand
Neha, your voice is, I'm sorry, Hare Krishna.
that
Your voice
the
is breaking.
living
Is it only for me or for everyone? I'm not
entity
sure.
is not
Huh?
material is not sufficient. What should read activity clear? Is it better now?
Hare Krishna. I'm
Is it
so,
better?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so from this simply to understand.
Simply to understand. Just let me find it. Yeah. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. That may be the beginning of the spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. Can you hear me now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and the superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now, in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even the more erudite scholar write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately because they are envious of Krishna. Their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or give perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So, such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now, most confidential knowledge. Who's speaking this verse?
Bhagwan himself, Krishna.
Yeah, Bhagwan himself. And why is Krishna saying he's going to give this knowledge to Arjuna?
Because Krishna says that you're not envious of me.
That's right. Because you're not envious of me. So, this is a qualification to understand Krishna properly. Prabhupada is mentioning here in the purport. We'll go into that. We'll go paragraph by paragraph into Prabhupada's purport. Not being envious of Krishna. Krishna says in 7th chapter, we are born into this world, into delusion because of our hate and our desire. So envy of Krishna. Then how can we give up the envy of Krishna?
By constantly engaged in the loving service of Krishna
That's right.
and
Yeah,
devotees.
yeah, that's right. Constantly hearing about Krishna, constantly chanting Krishna's name, gradually, we can give up this envy. So what is Krishna's giving now? Because he's saying, Arjuna, you're not envious of me. So what kind of knowledge he's giving to Arjuna? Is it ordinary knowledge?
No, this is the most confidential knowledge.
Yeah. And what is the result Krishna is saying you will get after you hear this most confidential knowledge?
You can be liberated.
Yeah,
You can go back to Godhead.
yeah, that's right. Liberated, go back to Godhead. No more material miseries. Relieved of all the material miseries. So here Prabhupada is explaining how we can get enlightened. What is it? How can we get enlightened?
by uh, by devotional service, by hearing chanting, is it?
Yeah, hearing in the association of devotees.
Devotees.
Yeah, the more we hear about Krishna in the association of devotees. Yeah, Prabhupada is saying the messages of Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies, and these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed among devotees. So, hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. Prabhupada says in one of his lectures also that that is Sankirtan. When we are hearing and chanting the glories of Krishna from Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, that is Sankirtan also. Sankirtan is not only chanting the Hare Krishna Kirtan, but also Krishna's glories from the scriptures. So, okay, then, um, so what happens when Krishna sees that somebody is very sincere? Then Krishna is giving the intelligence to understand him, the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. So Krishna is seeing our sincerity, our desire, how much this person wants to know me. Then Krishna gives the intelligence. He makes the arrangement for us to get more and more association of devotees, more and more services. So, and Prabhupada is saying that such a person is very fortunate. If a fortunate person has association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. So we are one, we say, oh, you're fortunate, this happened, you're fortunate, that happened. But real fortune is to associate with the devotees and hear and chant in the association of devotees. And that person is really fortunate. So here Prabhupada is explaining that what is the first chapter regarding of Bhagavad Gita?
Introduction to the rest of the book.
Yeah, and second and third.
The spiritual knowledge
Yeah,
describes the
confidential spiritual
confidential,
knowledge. Yeah,
confidential
because,
spiritual.
yeah. So what is this confidential knowledge? Second chapter, Krishna is
Body,
saying.
that you are the soul
That's right.
and not the body.
That's right. You're not the body or the soul. Krishna is saying in the second chapter, continuing in the third. So that's confidential. Now, seventh and eighth chapter, Krishna is speaking about, in seventh chapter more, he's speaking about his potencies, right? He's saying spiritual world is my spiritual potency, material world, my separated energy, living entity, my marginal energy. So he's speaking about his position. He's telling us about his potencies more in the seventh chapter. In the eighth chapter, he was speaking about devotional service. He was saying, Antakale chamam eva, that one who can remember me while giving up this body is going to come to me. So these are confidential topics. But now, why ninth chapter is called most confidential?
Because he's going to give us unalloyed, pure devotional service.
Yeah,
How to reach there.
yeah, that's what. He's speaking about pure devotional service. So that's why this is most confidential. So the pure devotee, because he's engaged in pure devotional service, he's on the liberated platform. Because he's liberated platform, he has no material miseries. Although he's inside this material world, he's called a Jivan Mukta because his consciousness is completely Krishna conscious. He's acting only for the pleasure of Krishna. So now Prabhupada is mentioning here in the purport that Srila Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is saying that one who's in this conditioned world, he's conditioned, he's in the material world, but he has a sincere desire to render loving service to the Lord. He is to be considered to be liberated. So he's not yet engaging in pure devotional service, but he simply has a sincere desire to engage in pure devotional service. He is to be considered liberated. Just like Prabhupada, when Prabhupada was asked by one of the devotees that how many pure devotees are there on this earth? And this devotee thought Prabhupada might say, few, one, two devotees. Prabhupada asked him, how many devotees are there in our movement? At that time, there were about 5,000 devotees. So Prabhupada said there are 5,000 pure devotees. So how to understand that? Because the devotees are engaged in serving Krishna with a sincere desire to come to the platform of pure devotional service. So that in that way, they're considered pure because they have this sincere desire to engage in pure devotional service. A desire to engage in pure devotional service is a spiritual desire. It's a pure desire. So Prabhupada explained it's like a mango. Mango is a mango. It's a green mango, for example. But with time, it will become ripe. It will become juicy, golden, nectarian. So right now, the devotee, he's in the material world. He is conditioned by material nature. But because he has this sincere desire to engage in loving devotional service to Krishna, and he's attempting in the association of devotees to hear and chant, gradually, he will come to the stage of pure devotional service. So this is how Rupa Goswami is saying that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person, because gradually he will come to that position. Is that okay?
Yes. So just having a desire is so powerful, right?
That's
That
right.
according to Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, that you are considered liberated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a sincere desire to engage in pure devotional service.
Mm.
So because
Okay.
when
Yeah.
that's the intense desire, the sincerity of the desire is there, then a person will
Mm.
act like that. We are driven
Mm.
by our
Mm.
desires. We are
Mm.
acting on our desires. So then one who has a sincere desire, Krishna gives the intelligence then how to act, how to associate with devotees, how to act, how to engage in devotional service. Then he can become liberated.
Mm.
Okay. So the 9 activities of devotional service, what are they?
Hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, obeying, maintaining friendship, and surrendering everything.
Yeah. So who got perfection by hearing?
Uh, Parikshit Maharaj?
Yeah.
Hearing,
And
yeah.
chanting?
Mm, Sukdev Goswami?
That's right. Remembering? Anyone else also, if they
Mhm.
know, can
Yeah,
answer.
they can just say, yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remembering, who got perfection when they were remembering? We just finished reading about this great devotee in Bhagavatam.
Prahlad Maharaj.
That's right. Prahlad Maharaj. He was always remembering the Lord. And that's how he got perfection. And serving the lotus feet. Who's always
Is it
served? Hmm.
Lakshmi ji?
Yeah. Lakshmi Devi serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Worshipping the deity.
Mm, Amrish Maharaj? Is it?
Mm,
No.
is a Maharaj. Is another one. Ambarish Maharaj is actually surrendering everything.
Okay, surrendering.
Mm.
Okay.
Worshipping.
Worshipping.
That is Prithu Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj. No,
Prithu.
no. Prithu. Sorry. Yeah, Prithu. Prithu. Yeah,
Prithu.
Prithu.
Bali Maharaj comes in surrendering everything.
Surrender. Yeah, yeah.
And praying. Offered beautiful praise to Krishna.
Is it Kunti Devi or somebody else more?
Usually, yeah,
Like
Yukunti Devi also
Brahmaji?
offered prayers. Usually the example given is of Akrur.
Akru. Okay. He purified. Yeah.
Akrur offered beautiful
Yeah.
prayers when he was
Mm.
the mood that he entered Vrindavan with. Even before he
Mm-hmm.
entered Vrindavan, he was offering prayers, you know.
Mm.
So, we are taught to enter Vrindavan in that mood, how Akrur
Mm.
entered. Obeying, being a
Hanumanji.
servant. Yeah, being a servant is Hanuman. And maintaining friendship, so being a friend of Krishna,
Is it Arjuna?
Arjun. Yeah, and surrendering everything.
Bali Maharaj, right? That
Bali
could be.
Maharaj, that's right. Yeah. So either one or all of them, if one can do them perfectly, can bring one to perfect Krishna consciousness. So for our stage, at our stage, hearing and chanting are very, very important to us. Of course, when we hear well, we can chant well. When we hear and chant well, we can remember well. Then we can worship the deity well. We can pray well. Yeah, we will know how to offer prayers. Usually we offer prayers that are spoken by the great devotees, the great Vaishnavas, the great Acharyas. Those are the prayers that we need to offer. So then, by engaging in this Navanga Bhakti in devotional service, what happens is we can, our heart gets cleaned up. The modes of passion and ignorance which are there in the heart, the lust, the anger, the greed, all that, gradually, Krishna cleans that from our heart. Then one comes to goodness. Then devotee continues to hear and chant in the association of devotees. And then one can transcend that goodness and come to spiritual goodness. And at that point, one can understand the science of Krishna. So it's not just enough to understand that I am not the body, I'm the soul. We need to understand that we are part and parcel of Krishna and that we have a duty towards Krishna, that we need to engage in devotional service. Because just by understanding I'm not the body, I'm not the soul, of course, it's a very high standard. I mean, how many people are even interested to know that, nowadays? Most of us are thinking we are the body and acting we are like the body. But even to understand we are not the body, we are the soul is already a high standard. But higher than that is to understand what does the soul do? How does the soul act? And that is devotional service. So one needs to come to that point to understand that the soul is always engaged in devotional service. So we said that about the seventh chapter. And yeah, scholarship is not what is needed to understand Krishna, but devotion is. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. Krishna says, I can be known only by devotion. There are many great scholars, so many great scholars are there, but one may completely miss the point. One may not be able to understand Bhagavad Gita through scholarship. It's not possible to understand Bhagavad Gita, but we need to hear from the devotees. When we hear from the devotee, then we can get perfect knowledge of Krishna. That is the way to receive the this pure knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So this is what is being said in this first verse. Any comments or questions?
All good.
Systematically explained everything. What we have
Systematically.
learned, what we are going to learn. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all good. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll stop here for today. This was a longer verse. And then Krishna is going to go on to actually speak about devotional service in the second text. We'll continue with it tomorrow, because I think that's a bit long too. Yeah, we'll continue with it tomorrow. So, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you so much.